At 70, strength stops being a spectacle and becomes something far more intimate. It is no longer measured by mirrors, medals, or the number on a barbell, but by quieter moments that rarely get applause. The ability to rise from bed without hesitation. The confidence to step off a curb without calculating the risk. The freedom to hold a grandchild without worrying whether your arms will tremble. Muscle, at this stage of life, is not about appearance or dominance, it is about dignity. Science increasingly shows that what we often call aging is not a sudden collapse of the body, but a gradual withdrawal of biological support when muscles are no longer given reasons to stay engaged. Muscle tissue is alive, responsive, and deeply intelligent. Even in later decades, muscle cells listen carefully to their environment. They respond to movement, to nourishment, to signals that say, "You are still needed." When those signals weaken, muscles do not rebel, they simply conserve energy, shrinking slowly, quietly, almost politely. This process, known as age-related muscle loss, is often blamed entirely on time, but time alone is rarely the culprit. Research shows that muscle fibers in older adults retain the capacity to grow stronger when the right conditions are restored, suggesting that decline is not inevitable, only negotiable. What changes with age is not the desire of muscle to function, but the efficiency of communication between the brain, the nerves, and the muscle fibers themselves. Neural signals travel more cautiously. Hormonal messages soften. Protein synthesis becomes less enthusiastic. Yet the machinery remains intact, waiting for encouragement. This is why strength training works even in the 8th decade, and why nutrition becomes not just fuel, but instruction. Muscles do not simply ask for calories, they ask for clarity. They need to know that rebuilding is safe, supported, and worthwhile. There is something profoundly human about this biological truth. Muscles reflect how we live. When life becomes smaller, when movement is avoided out of fear, when meals are chosen out of habit rather than curiosity, muscles interpret this as a cue to step back. Not as punishment, but as adaptation. The body is always trying to help us survive, even when that survival comes at the cost of vitality. Strength fades not because the body fails us, but because it is responding faithfully to the signals we send. At 70, maintaining muscle becomes an act of self-respect. It is a decision to stay in dialogue with your body rather than retreat from it. Science tells us that muscle mass is directly linked to longevity, balance, immune strength, and even cognitive health. Strong muscles regulate blood sugar, protect joints, and reduce the inflammatory burden that accelerates many chronic diseases. In this sense, muscle is not merely tissue, it is protection, resilience, and memory. It remembers what you ask of it, and it remembers what you neglect. Perhaps the most hopeful insight is that muscles do not require perfection, only consistency. They respond to gentle resistance, to thoughtful nourishment, to daily reminders that movement still matters. Even small changes can shift the trajectory. A few minutes of standing exercises. A meal that supports repair instead of strain. A mindset that sees aging not as a narrowing path, but as a slower, more deliberate walk through the same landscape, where strength is still possible, still meaningful, still waiting for the body to be invited back into motion and purpose and quiet confidence that builds not from force but from understanding. For a long time, the conversation around strength in later life has been simplified almost to the point of misunderstanding. Protein became the hero, and eggs became the symbol. One food, one solution, one message repeated until curiosity faded. Yet biology rarely works through single answers. Muscles are not built by protein alone, just as a house is not built by bricks without mortar, design, and time. When science looks more closely, it finds that muscle health is shaped by an ecosystem of nutrients working together, and this is where seeds quietly change the story. Seeds are often dismissed because they are small, because they do not dominate the plate, because they do not fit the image of power food. But from a biological perspective, they are dense packages of instructions. Within a single handful exists a complex blend of amino acids, minerals, healthy fats, and bioactive compounds that speak to muscle cells in more than one language. Pumpkin seeds offer magnesium, essential for muscle relaxation and contraction. Sesame seeds bring calcium and zinc, crucial for tissue repair and neuromuscular signaling. Flax and chia seeds contribute omega-3 fatty acids, which reduce low-grade inflammation that quietly interferes with muscle regeneration as we age. What makes this important is not the presence of protein, but the context in which that protein arrives. Eggs deliver protein quickly, efficiently, and in isolation. This can be useful, but in older bodies, rapid protein spikes are not always translated into muscle growth. Aging muscle becomes resistant, less responsive to sudden surges. Seeds, by contrast, digest slowly. They release nutrients gradually, creating a longer window for muscle cells to absorb and utilize what they are given. Science refers to this as metabolic pacing, and it matters more with age than volume alone. Muscle is not just a mechanical structure, it is metabolically sensitive. It responds to blood sugar stability, to inflammation levels, to mineral availability. Seeds support this broader environment. Their fiber moderates glucose absorption, preventing the insulin spikes that can impair muscle protein synthesis over time. Their antioxidants protect muscle cells from oxidative stress, a key contributor to age-related weakness. In this way, seeds do not push muscles aggressively, they support them patiently, aligning with the slower, wiser rhythms of the aging body. There is also a cultural assumption hidden in our food choices. Eggs represent efficiency, convenience, certainty. Seeds represent variety, adaptation, complexity. Biology favors the latter. Muscles evolved not on monotony, but on diversity. Different amino acid profiles, different fat structures, different micronutrients all create a richer signal to muscle tissue, one that says not just grow, but endure. Strength at 70 is less about how much force a muscle can generate once, and more about how reliably it can respond throughout the day. Another overlooked dimension is inflammation. As we age, the body tends to exist in a low, chronic inflammatory state, often unnoticed. This inflammation interferes with muscle repair, even when protein intake is adequate. Seeds actively counter this process. Their fats integrate into cell membranes, improving flexibility and communication. Their phytonutrients calm immune overactivity. The result is an internal environment where muscle repair is no longer competing with inflammation for attention. Perhaps most quietly powerful is what seeds represent psychologically. They invite intention. They ask to be sprinkled, soaked, ground, combined. This act of care translates into awareness, and awareness often leads to better nourishment choices overall. Muscles sense consistency more than intensity. When nourishment becomes thoughtful rather than automatic, the body begins to respond differently, rebuilding not out of urgency, but out of trust, a trust that forms when the signals it receives are steady, diverse, and aligned with the deeper needs of aging muscle fibers that are not failing, but waiting to be supported in a way that matches their changing biology and their enduring capacity to respond and remain strong. As the body ages, one of the most profound changes does not happen in the muscle itself, but in the conversation between muscle and mind. Strength is often imagined as something local, confined to fibers and tissue, yet every movement begins as an electrical thought. The brain sends a signal, the nerves carry it, and the muscle responds. With age, this signaling system becomes quieter, not broken, but less confident. Messages travel more slowly, sometimes less clearly, and muscles that once responded instantly begin to hesitate. This hesitation is often mistaken for weakness, when in truth it is a communication issue. Science shows that many older adults still possess a surprising amount of muscle tissue, yet struggle with coordination, balance, and reaction time. This reveals something important. Muscle loss alone does not explain functional decline. The real challenge lies in neuromuscular efficiency, the ability of nerves to activate muscle fibers in a synchronized way. When this coordination weakens, muscles feel unreliable. People begin to compensate by moving less, trusting their bodies less, and this behavioral shift further reduces the quality of the signals being sent. This is where nutrition quietly steps into the nervous system. Nerve cells are uniquely sensitive to the composition of their membranes, which are largely built from fats. Omega-3 fatty acids, found abundantly in seeds like flax and chia, are not simply energy sources. They are structural components of neurons. They make nerve membranes more flexible, more responsive, better able to transmit signals without distortion. In aging bodies, where cellular membranes become stiffer over time, this flexibility matters deeply. When omega-3s are consistently present, nerve signaling becomes clearer. Muscles receive instructions with better timing and precision. This does not necessarily increase muscle size, but it improves muscle confidence. Movements become smoother. Balance improves. The body feels more cooperative. Research links omega-3 intake in older adults to better motor control and reduced risk of falls, not because muscles suddenly grow stronger, but because the nervous system regains some of its conversational fluency. There is also the matter of inflammation within the nervous system itself. Chronic, low-level inflammation affects not only joints and muscles, but nerves. Inflamed nerves misfire. Signals become noisy. Omega-3 fats counter this process by calming inflammatory pathways, allowing neural communication to regain clarity. This is particularly important in aging, where inflammation subtly erodes function long before pain appears. Seeds, through their fat composition and antioxidants, help protect these fragile communication lines. What makes this relationship so compelling is its gentleness. Unlike stimulants or aggressive interventions, omega-3s do not force the nervous system into action. They create conditions in which action becomes easier. This aligns with how aging bodies prefer to heal. They respond better to support than to pressure. When the nervous system feels safe, it sends stronger, more reliable signals. Muscles respond not with strain, but with steadiness. There is a psychological dimension here as well. When movements feel coordinated, confidence returns. A person who trusts their balance walks more. A person who walks more sends more signals through their nervous system. This feedback loop strengthens both mind and muscle. Nutrition becomes part of a larger cycle of engagement, where small biological improvements lead to meaningful behavioral changes that further reinforce physical capability. Seeds, in this sense, are not just nutrients. They are protectors of communication. They preserve the dialogue between intention and action. They remind the body how to listen and how to respond. Strength at 70 is not only about muscle fibers contracting, it is about clarity of instruction, calmness of transmission, and reliability of response. When the nervous system is nourished, muscles stop feeling like strangers and begin to feel like partners again, moving not out of fear or force, but out of cooperation and familiarity and a restored sense of internal connection that allows the aging body to move through space with awareness rather than hesitation. Aging changes not only what the body needs, but how it receives what it is given. Digestion, once effortless, becomes selective, sometimes fragile. The stomach produces less acid, digestive enzymes decline, and the gut lining becomes more sensitive to irritation. These changes are rarely dramatic, but they are cumulative. Over time, they influence how well nutrients are absorbed and how the body responds to different foods. For muscle health, this shift is critical, because nourishment that cannot be absorbed becomes invisible to the tissues that depend on it. Heavy animal proteins, though rich in amino acids, demand significant digestive effort. They require strong stomach acid to break down and efficient enzymes to complete absorption. In younger bodies, this process is seamless. In older bodies, it can create strain. Undigested protein fragments may irritate the gut lining, triggering low-grade inflammation that spreads beyond the digestive tract. This inflammation quietly interferes with muscle repair, even when protein intake appears sufficient on paper. Seeds offer a different biological experience. Their proteins come packaged with fiber, healthy fats, and micronutrients that support digestion rather than overwhelm it. Fiber slows the movement of food through the gut, giving digestive enzymes more time to work. It also feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which play a surprisingly large role in muscle health. These microbes help regulate inflammation, synthesize certain nutrients, and influence how efficiently amino acids are delivered to muscle tissue. The gut and muscle are more connected than most people realize. Research increasingly describes a gut-muscle axis, where signals from the microbiome influence muscle metabolism and strength. When gut bacteria are healthy and diverse, they produce compounds that reduce systemic inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity, both of which are essential for muscle protein synthesis. Seeds, by nourishing this microbial ecosystem, indirectly strengthen muscles without directly targeting them. Another often overlooked factor is comfort. When food feels heavy or causes bloating, people instinctively eat less or simplify their diets in ways that reduce nutrient diversity. This is common in older adults and often goes unnoticed. Seeds, when prepared thoughtfully, tend to be easier to tolerate. They can be ground, soaked, or blended, adapting to individual digestive capacity. This adaptability matters, because nourishment must feel safe before it can be effective. There is also the issue of timing. Muscles in older adults benefit from a steady supply of nutrients rather than large, infrequent meals. Seeds digest slowly, releasing amino acids and fats over extended periods. This sustained availability aligns well with the aging body's metabolic rhythm. Instead of overwhelming the system, seeds provide gentle, continuous support that muscles can access when needed. Inflammation again plays a central role. The digestive tract is a major immune organ, and when it is irritated, immune activity increases. This diverts energy away from repair and maintenance, including muscle regeneration. Seeds contain compounds that soothe the gut lining and reduce inflammatory signaling. Over time, this creates a more hospitable internal environment for muscle health, where repair is no longer competing with immune distress. Beyond biology, there is a subtle psychological effect. When digestion feels calm, energy returns. People move more when they are not burdened by discomfort. Movement itself improves digestion, creating a reinforcing loop. Seeds participate quietly in this cycle, supporting not just nutrient absorption, but the willingness to engage with the body. Muscle loss in aging is often addressed by adding more protein, but rarely by improving how the body processes that protein. Seeds remind us that nourishment is not just about what enters the mouth, but about what the body can actually use. Strength is built not from excess, but from harmony between digestion, absorption, and repair, a harmony that becomes increasingly valuable with age and increasingly dependent on foods that cooperate with the body's changing physiology rather than challenge it, allowing muscles to receive support without strain and to rebuild within an internal environment that feels balanced, receptive, and quietly resilient. Nutrition is never just biochemical, it is behavioral, emotional, and deeply tied to how people see themselves over time. By the seventh decade of life, eating often becomes automatic, shaped by decades of habit rather than present awareness. Meals repeat themselves not because they are optimal, but because they are familiar. Yet the body at 70 is not the same body it was at 40, and it does not interpret food in the same way. Strength in later life depends not only on nutrients, but on attention, on the willingness to notice what the body is asking for now rather than what it once tolerated. Seeds subtly disrupt routine. They rarely arrive as a complete meal. They ask to be added, combined, considered. A sprinkle over vegetables, a spoon stirred into yogurt, a handful soaked overnight. These small acts require intention. Intention changes the relationship with food, shifting it from consumption to participation. From a scientific perspective, this matters because consistent, mindful eating patterns lead to more stable metabolic responses. Blood sugar becomes smoother. Hormonal signaling becomes more predictable. Muscles receive clearer, steadier messages that nourishment is available and ongoing. There is also a powerful concept in biology known as signal repetition. Cells respond more reliably to frequent, moderate signals than to rare, intense ones. Seeds fit this pattern perfectly. They are rarely eaten in excess, but often in repetition. Over time, this creates a rhythm of nutrient delivery that muscles can adapt to. Strength becomes less about dramatic intervention and more about dependable reinforcement. This is particularly important in aging, where extremes tend to produce stress rather than adaptation. Psychologically, seeds represent possibility rather than restriction. They do not replace foods, they enhance them. This distinction matters. Diets that focus on elimination often create resistance, especially later in life. Enhancement, on the other hand, invites curiosity. Curiosity keeps people engaged. Engagement keeps habits alive. When nourishment feels like exploration rather than obligation, adherence improves, and the body benefits from the consistency that follows. There is compassion embedded in this approach. Aging bodies deserve gentleness. They respond poorly to punishment but remarkably well to patience. Seeds do not demand radical change. They offer incremental support, allowing the body to adjust without shock. Over time, these small additions accumulate, influencing inflammation levels, mineral balance, gut health, and muscle resilience. Science repeatedly shows that long-term outcomes are shaped more by what is done regularly than by what is done perfectly. Another subtle benefit lies in autonomy. Choosing to nourish the body intentionally restores a sense of agency that can fade with age. Physical strength is closely linked to psychological confidence. When people feel they are actively supporting their bodies, they move with more assurance. That confidence feeds back into physical capability, reinforcing strength through use. Muscles thrive on use, but use depends on trust, and trust grows when the body feels supported rather than strained. Seeds also invite a different perception of time. They embody potential. Each one contains the blueprint for growth, waiting for the right conditions. This mirrors the aging body more than we often acknowledge. Capacity does not vanish, it waits. Given steady care, it expresses itself in quieter ways. Strength at 70 may not look like it did before, but it can feel just as real, perhaps more so, because it is rooted in awareness rather than effort. The science of aging increasingly points toward lifestyle patterns that align with biological rhythms rather than resist them. Seeds, in their simplicity, reflect this alignment. They support muscles not by forcing change, but by cooperating with the body's natural processes. They remind us that health is not reclaimed through urgency, but cultivated through attention, patience, and respect for the intelligence of the body as it is now, an intelligence that responds not to extremes, but to consistent care and thoughtful nourishment that allows strength to emerge as a quiet, enduring companion rather than a fleeting achievement that fades as quickly as it appears. If you found these insights helpful and want to continue learning practical, science-backed strategies to stay healthy, strong, and vibrant as you age, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends and family who could benefit, and subscribe to our channel for daily senior wellness tips, nutrition guidance, and simple lifestyle hacks designed to enhance longevity and quality of life. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video that can help you live healthier, happier, and more empowered every day.